Most of your financial decisions aren't actually yours. Research from financial psychologist Brad Klontz identifies what he calls money scripts, inherited beliefs about saving, spending, and risk that were absorbed from your parents before you could consciously question them. These scripts don't expire. They run quietly in the background, directing every dollar you earn, spend, or fear losing. The question isn't whether you carry one, it's whether you've ever tried to rewrite it. A money script is simply a shorthand term for an automatic internal rule. It is not a medical diagnosis, a permanent destiny, or a literal sentence permanently etched into your mind. Instead, think of it as a default setting, a collection of learned beliefs, quiet assumptions, and emotional reactions that shape how you handle money without requiring your conscious permission every single time. Long before you understood interest rates or tax brackets, you were watching, listening, and absorbing how the adults around you reacted to bills, savings, and wealth. You learned what felt safe and what felt dangerous. This internalized coding operates quietly, guiding decisions you might assume are purely logical. Uncovering these background rules is not about pointing fingers or blaming past generations. It is about understanding the psychological blueprints you inherited, so you can decide if they still serve you today. To study these automatic rules, researcher Brad Klontz and his colleagues developed the Money Script Inventory in 2011. By analyzing money-related statements rated by 422 adults, they mapped common beliefs to establish a descriptive lens. This tool shows how closely our ideas match actual financial outcomes, though its evidence has clear limits. While the inventory reveals strong links between background attitudes and behaviors like chronic debt or oversaving, it does not prove that parents directly cause every adult decision. When examining these patterns, researchers use composite profiles of common behaviors rather than individual clinical cases, ensuring the data reflects broad societal trends. The inventory simply measures the connection between a visible, present-day choice and the older, unexamined rule operating beneath it. Recognizing these patterns brings us to an unresolved question. Where exactly did these silent rules originate? In 2011, researchers Christopher Gudmundsson and Sandra Daines formalized this process through Family Financial Socialization Theory. Their framework reveals that children do not simply copy their parents' financial habits. Instead, socialization occurs within a complex ecosystem shaped by family characteristics, relationship quality, and purposive interactions like deliberate instruction. Because adolescent and parent reports of these lessons rarely align perfectly, the emotional atmosphere surrounding a household's money conversations often determines how a message is received. Anxieties and defensive patterns are frequently passed down as well-meaning survival mechanisms, meant to shield the younger generation from perceived economic instability. When analyzing these patterns, a helpful, non-judgmental starting point is essential. We are not talking about what parents intended to teach. We are talking about what a child learned. Reinterpreting these early lessons as inherited adaptations, rather than absolute truths, makes it possible to evaluate their utility objectively. Children gather financial data through three distinct channels: what they hear, what they observe, and what the home environment feels like. Long before we understand bank accounts, we memorize spoken household phrases like, "We cannot afford that," "Money disappears fast," "Wanting more is selfish," or "We do not talk about money." Alongside these rules, we witness repeated behaviors. This might look like bills hidden away in drawers, loud arguments over credit card purchases, or routine expenses treated as active threats. Under Albert Bandura's social learning perspective, one model among several, these observed routines serve as templates. Over time, these patterns settle into bodily memory as physical sensations of tension, secrecy, urgency, or sudden relief. Yet the meaning a child constructs often differs from parental intent. A parent's quiet thriftiness can easily be interpreted by a young mind as a sign that the world is unsafe. Because of this, the exact same household routine can produce entirely different adult behaviors, depending on how each child translates the experience. These early lessons resolve into 4 distinct patterns. First, money avoidance treats wealth as shameful or morally compromising. Second, money worship casts money as the sole solution to life's problems. Third, money status equates social worth with outward displays of success. Fourth, money vigilance emphasizes strict saving and secrecy, a prudent stance that can become restrictive when safety never feels fully realized. Many people hold multiple patterns, shifting their behavior across different situations. When researchers evaluated these patterns using the revised inventory, they found about 30% of U.S. respondents showed high vigilance, while 15 to 20% scored high on the other 3. But a 2025 study by Miranda Reiter and her colleagues found the model lacked measurement invariance, meaning the scale does not measure beliefs the same way across different racial and ethnic groups. And while these scripts correlate with financial struggles, they never override material realities like systemic opportunities, income, or financial knowledge. Simply identifying your category is only a starting point, as classification alone is insufficient to drive actual change. Translating awareness into action requires focusing on specific, everyday choices. Step 1 is to capture a single, recent money decision. Instead of assessing your entire financial identity, select one concrete event, like an impulse purchase or an intense hesitation to spend. Record exactly what happened immediately before that choice. Note the situation, your justifying thought, the intensity of your emotion, and the action you took. Step 2. Traces this pattern backward. Ask yourself what that decision was trying to protect you from. Locate your earliest memory of a similar financial atmosphere, routine, or phrase. As you reflect, separate the words or events that actually occurred from the meaning you, as a child, concluded. Look for repeating family patterns rather than a single dramatic event. By mapping this connection, you reveal how a modern financial choice is often just an old survival rule, like never appearing financially exposed, playing out in the present. Step 3. Maps the internal sequence to separate inherited rules from current facts. A core belief like money is never safe triggers an automatic thought. If I spend this, I will regret it. This thought sparks immediate anxiety or shame, driving a behavior designed to escape that discomfort, such as compulsive saving to briefly quiet fear, or hasty spending to temporarily relieve a felt sense of scarcity. In cognitive behavioral theory, this illustrates emotional avoidance, treating a financial decision as a short-term escape from discomfort rather than a simple failure of discipline. Under the scarcity research of Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir, a perceived lack narrows focus toward immediate threats or rewards. Applying these concepts provides a reflective interpretation of your choices, rather than absolute proof of emotional control. To test this, list actual income, obligations, and objective risks in one column, and your imagined financial catastrophe in another. Step 4 replaces the rigid inherited absolute with a balanced, realistic alternative. The goal is not to swing to the opposite extreme, exchanging a restrictive rule like, "I must save every penny," for an equally reckless belief that money does not matter. Instead, a useful replacement preserves the original, valid need for security while removing the self-imposed prison of the absolute rule. It operates as a draft to be tested in the real world, rather than an empty, positive affirmation. Write this draft down before any new spending or saving behavior is attempted. A balanced statement looks like this: I can protect my future and spend within a planned limit. This keeps the legitimate concern for safety intact while clearing space for intentional, conscious financial choices. A new belief still has to survive the spreadsheet. Rewriting an internal rule does not erase income limits, debt obligations, healthcare costs, housing expenses, or actual risk. Before altering any saving or spending habits, verify that all basic living costs are fully funded. Reframing an old script should never justify taking on new high-cost debt. While general guidelines suggest a basic 1-month emergency reserve or a 36% debt-to-income ratio, treat these numbers as provisional benchmarks requiring personal verification. Healthy financial change means separating the emotional permission to spend from ignoring consequences, while acknowledging that financial safety is distinct from eliminating every real-world uncertainty. If money choices involve severe anxiety, compulsive purchasing, gambling, hoarding, or immediate financial danger, consult a qualified financial counselor or a licensed mental health professional. Step 5. Tests the balanced alternative belief through a small, highly structured behavioral experiment. Before starting, establish a strict, affordable spending boundary to guarantee the test does not threaten essential needs, deplete emergency reserves, or create new debt. For a fear-based saver, this means selecting a predefined discretionary amount, perhaps $20, and spending it on a leisure activity. Before making the purchase, write down the predicted emotion, perform the action, and then record the actual feelings that follow. For an emotional spender, the test involves delaying an impulsive purchase by 24 hours and choosing an alternative action that matches a stated personal value, such as saving or contributing to a long-term goal. These exercises are illustrative, low-risk applications rather than guaranteed psychological cures. Any discomfort or anxiety experienced during the test should be treated as neutral data to observe, not as evidence of failure. Once the action is complete, evaluate the experiment based on objective facts and financial safety, not on how comfortable the experience felt. Ask if the feared consequence actually occurred and what the observed results show. This direct observation helps separate old, inherited rules from present-day economic realities. Your next financial choice is a chance to test your new script. While numbers matter, the silent beliefs directing them shape your future. True financial freedom begins when you stop repeating the past and start choosing your present. Subscribe to build a more intentional relationship with your money. New sessions Tuesday and Friday. See you in the next one. Subscribe to Finance Physio. Break the chains and embrace a bright financial future.